we go. How's everybody doing? Good. We're DWS Media. I'm Greg. This is Sean, Enrique. I guess we'll go through one by one and kind of give a brief introduction of ourselves and our background. My name is Greg DiPercio. I come from a marketing and copywriting background. Been doing that for about a decade, but kind of stalled out in my career. Writing content on the internet's a tough way to make a living. If you guys have been following the news, a lot of journalists getting laid off, and it's just a tough business, and decided to take the plunge and make a change. And I think, like a lot of people who've been up there, looked into some of the different boot camps and academies here in Miami. 4Geeks was teaching the languages that companies seem to want, and came in, met everybody, got a good feeling, and went ahead and took the plunge and went full time. And it's been a pretty fantastic experience. So thanks to Nacho and Alejandro, Marcelo, Andres, Paulo. It's really learned a lot in these last 10 weeks, and excited to see where the future takes us.
I'm Sean Worfman. I initially started my career in content writing, and then I moved into more of client-facing roles with digital advertising and traditional advertising. And honestly, what made me start to learn programming was I just really hated dealing with developers all the time from a managerial role. Well, and you never know if they're lying to you and they're falling behind on deadlines and right. So I got really upset one day with a developer I was working with at the time. I figured I'll just teach it to myself, and then that also did not work out. So I my tail around with it for probably 3 to 4 months or so, and then I started research, like Greg and everyone else has mentioned, and I eventually landed on 4Geeks, namely because of the languages they were teaching. Like he mentioned, it's just the most in demand, and then also it's just the most cost-effective bootcamp that I came across for sure. And also, like Greg, thanks to everyone involved: Andres, Nacho, Marcelo, Paolo, of course. And I'll pass it on to Enrique.
Thank you, Sean. Well, hey everybody, my name is Enrique Smith. I come from an accounting background. I have been wanting to code for a long time already, and I finally decided, in my last job, I realized, it was time for me to make a move, because a lot of the work I was doing, I knew that somebody could come in with a software program, and just automate that, and I'd be out of a job. So I wanted to get ahead of the curve. I had just always wanted to code. I was always interested in it, so I decided it was time to finally make the jump and do this full time. And it's been great. I'm very grateful to all the 4Geeks Academy and my my teammates, I guess. And yeah, and it's been great. It's been a great experience.
So we've kind of given you our backgrounds here, but just we all came in. I think between the three of us, probably had next to nothing in terms of a coding background. I know personally I had messed around with some basic HTML. I didn't know what CSS stood for when I started here. I knew Python was something that tech companies like, but I didn't know what it did. So in 9 weeks, we were kind of able to go from a nothing background to what you're about to see, which we think is pretty fantastic. Hope you agree. I guess the best way I would describe our experience, doing the full-time program from 9 to 6 every day, it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's just so much information, and when you think you've got it all, they dump in, twice as much, and it never ends. I'm dreaming about this stuff now, because I do it 10 hours a day, And we spent a lot of time in there kind of frustrated and beating our heads against the wall, but from everybody I've talked to, that's kind of the business. So I guess you just have to embrace it, because there's probably a lot more of that coming ahead. But I think we all feel like real developers now, and excited to see what's next. So what DWS Media is, because 2/3 of our team at least has a marketing background. It's a content marketing website. The way it works is it's interactive. A client can come in, create a user profile, and then from there, browse our different content offerings, from blog posts to press releases, email blasts, add-on services, and kind of build their own experience, create a cart, tell us what services they need based on their business's needs, and then from there they can purchase their offerings. They get the content delivered to them based on their own schedule, and really we just wanted to make it to where the user controls the whole experience. Coming from a marketing background, I know a lot of marketing companies out there try to wow you with like how cool their site looks, but then the actual user experience is not the best. So we wanted to make it to where the user's in control and kind of make it simple for them. The user goes on our website, they set up their profile, they look at our services, they pretty much do everything without having to deal with an actual person, which is what a lot of people want now. So, as far as our technologies, HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript, React on the front end, and then the back end was done with Python, Flask, SQL Alchemy. Kind of for our workflow, we used the Flux system, and then we did REST API to store all our data, manipulate it, and do all that fun stuff. And I'm going to turn it over and
How do we move over to the website? Slide it down. You mean in the dock?
So you can find yours in the tab.
It's the same one? Okay, so I'm going to start it out. So this is our landing page for our website. Basically, we just start out with a big image so that people can see, we're really about content. And so first, when you scroll down, I'm just going to start showing you the functionality of it. First, you have these packages, which is the user can buy a package for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. This is basically, these are just blog packages. That's a standard that we have. And then if they want other features, you have here we have a blog post, a press release, social media post, newspaper article, direct mailer, all these other add-ons that they can just add to their packages, and they decide, they tell us what type of content they're looking for, and we go ahead and build it for them. So this is a testimonials from some of our clients, that we're going to show on our website here. So this guy, his sales increased 200%, so we're doing good work, So this guy not too much, but close enough, 180. So we have a good track record, This one, it's good enough. Over 100% is good. So this is the first page. Basically, this is our layout. We built this. I worked on this homepage. I built a lot of these components with Bootstrap. It was pretty interesting to do this one because you see this header over here, like this part right here where you go. Sometimes it's a little different, but this packages, when you click it, it goes straight down to here, and that was a big problem with that's a super simple thing to do with HTML, but with the React, it messed it up. So I had to download a node package npm node package module, I believe. What is manager? I had to download one to fix that. Yeah, to help me with that, and I also had to do with this for this carousel was also very complicated. So yeah.
Don't say carousel.
I know. I had to get a React strap, and that didn't work. It only worked for desktop, and then I had to download finally an npm worked that was able to make it both for desktop and mobilely responsive. So that was pretty good. I didn't give up on that, and it worked. So that was great. So I'm just gonna go through one of these. So basically, you click on one, and it gives you the detail, and then you can return to your shopping, or you can go ahead and here you can add to cart directly from here, or you can add to cart from outside, from here too. And
Should sign up first.
yeah, that's true. So I'm gonna sign up for you guys.
Should clear the cart.
Yeah, let's clear the cart. I'm gonna clear the cart. All right, so I'm gonna sign up. This is our sign up function. I guess this is, we don't want her. So that's a login page. And then with that, you can go back and then start adding things to your cart. So you see the cart automatically populates, and here you can see the cart. We set it up so that you can only add one package at a time. So that if the user accidentally like adds 2 packages for like the 2-month packages at once, if they delete once, they both delete, so that they know they can only have like one package there. And you want to do this next part?
Yeah, sure. So you get logged in, you sign up, and then you go to your cart. This number updates dynamically depending on what's in the cart. Then you can go to buy now, and then just more like fill this out right now. There's like super basic validations on this form, like it'll turn red if nothing's in there, but I'm not doing like the whole credit card number needs to be 10 numbers thing on it. So then you would come here, final price, this updates to, right? Oh, look at that, I was wrong. Right, and then this would bring you to a thank you page, and then like this should be like the blog will be posted to your website a week from whenever you purchase it, the first blog. And then it's supposed to be 1 blog every week. So this date here updates like just a week in advance from whenever you purchase it. And then you can also go to your profile here, which also automatically populates when you sign up, right? And then after you purchase, it'll like collect the payment history based off what you bought in the past. And then, yep, I think that's most of the functionality, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Yeah, we have an About Us page.
Yeah. And then you can log out too.
Yeah, you can log out, log in, and then our portfolio. Basically, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, cool. You go back to the presentation. Or you want to talk about the back end? Right.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. As far as the back end goes, I mean, it was just building the database and the different tables in Python. That's where we store, all the user information. If a user wants to change his cart or change his password or email or anything about their user profile, it gets manipulated through our back end with SQL Alchemy and through Flask, and which was a pretty cool experience. And I guess we'll go on to the next slide, which talks about kind of the challenges that we faced. All right. I can't remember what the challenges were without them being on the screen. Maybe they weren't that hard after all. No, it was pretty challenging the whole way. Everything from, I'll just speak for, I did more of the back end, and these guys handled more of the front end. On the back end, it was just first making sure getting all the endpoints right, and then testing it all out, and then once everything got working on the back end and the front end. Okay. All right, now we can go through them one by one. So on the front end, built, as Enrique alluded to earlier, blending React and Bootstrap was, I think, more difficult than we anticipated going in, because it seemed like when you got like the Bootstrap working and then tried to import React components, there were things that they ended up having to tweak on the front end to get it working. So that was a challenge to get through. The nav bar in Bootstrap, I don't know what it is. Bootstrap's really cool. Like, it makes life a lot easier until you try to build a nav bar with it, and then it's just a real pain. Making it mobily responsive, all the different components, like the carousel, as once again Enrique said. Getting the tables to interact with each other, because we'd done like the one-to-one and one-to-many, but I think we had like 5 different tables in our database that had different types of relationships back and forth. So, getting them to share information and, manipulate one from the other was tough. And then the biggest thing this last week was connecting the front end and the back end. They had their front end working perfectly, pulling everything from the local store. My back end was working great on Postman, and then we put them together, and it was like, one headache after another. But we fought through it, and I think the project turned out pretty well. And then just learning Flask, and that's kind of, I think we were the first cohort, plus your cohort, to do Flask rather than Django. So it's kind of a, I guess, learning experience for everyone. But you know, all in all, it was a good thing, and really feel good about it.
Yeah, I would agree with Greg. Definitely the issue with connecting the front end with the back end was my biggest issue coming up on the end. And that's because I didn't realize like how many things are, like I initially structured everything to pull from the local storage instead of thinking that would go into a database that would like populate the store, and then the website would render what's in the store. And so kind of I feel like I should have just communicated more with Greg right from the beginning, because then I would have structured it accordingly, and then instead of like hitting these weird logic issues at the end, which is kind of what happened. But other than that, I mean, definitely a great learning experience. And for me personally, conditional rendering was a big part of it. So that was super cool to see, because I've never done anything right where it's like you're like logging in a user, and then based off if the user's logged in, like this word's changing in the nav bar, or like the price is updating dynamically depending on what's in the cart and things like that. So it was super cool, and it felt a lot more kin to like a real life application as opposed to like doing like replit practices and that sort of stuff. So it was nice to see the real world connection there.
Well, like Greg had mentioned, basically, my biggest challenge were with the Bootstrap components and integrating it with React. Definitely had some issues there. Particularly, the carousel was very complicated. I mean, the interesting thing was like you don't only have to think if it works for desktop, you also have to think if it works for mobile. You know, so like I had the carousel working perfectly for desktop, and then I'm like, oh, let me check, you know, if this works mobile, and it was a mess. It was a mess in mobile, and then I had to like, you know, all those different views. I had to make sure it was like with all these media queries, I was making sure if it's between, you know, 1,000 pixels or 1,200, you know, and that was harder than I thought it would be in the beginning. You know, it definitely was, to make sure that everything, like, you know, all the font sizes adjust for different. That was definitely harder than I expected, for sure. And but it was great to learn to work with that, and you know, I made sure that this website runs on whatever you know, that looks good on whatever size screen you're looking at it with. So that was definitely basically what I took away from this was just don't give up on any challenge you have. You know, if you know you want to get it, that there's always a solution somewhere. You know, and I ended up finding the carousel. I ended up finding an npm, downloaded it, and it worked. And it was difficult to get it to actually work with like all the components we have going on, and but it worked fine, and it was great. So.